Good afternoon and welcome to Just Jocelyn. I'm your host, Jocelyn, and my guest today is Laurie Ortolano, and she is from Nashua. And some of you may know her, some of you may not, but I am telling you, this is a lady you need to know. This is a lady you need to listen to. This is a lady that knows what's going on in this city of Nashua and what's going on in the state. We have got so many people out there just revealing what is going on in our local schools, in our local governments, in our state government. And it all matters because it all comes down to what are our constitutional rights, what are our inalienable rights, or as some people say, unalienable rights. It all matters. We pay taxes, not willingly. We're happy to do our portion, but taxes are pretty much stolen from us and used for any purpose they decide. We need to be paying attention to this because it isn't doing what is necessary for we the people that live in this city or any state. We must hold our local government, our state government, and our federal government 1,000% accountable. I hate the word transparency because they think it's like a really thick gauze across our faces and they call that transparency. We call it no gauze, no net, no curtain, no nothing. We want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us God, because all our rights come from God. Common law, nature's law, God's law, not corporation law. So with that rant over, Miss Laurie, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be back.
I am so glad to help you, to hear from you and have you here. We ran into each other last week in court, so, providence and good timing. One of today's shows, you want to talk about city bonding, specifically the city of Nashua. What's going on with the bonding? Why are they all getting their pants in a twist, and why are they not really being honest with us about what's going on, all these under-the-table deals?
Yes, there's a need to have more transparency in the area of money spending in this city. And the city does a lot of bonding for their projects. And
explain what bonding is to us.
The city decides that they're going to do a project that's going to have a long-lasting life. Typically, buildings or like a new construction building, a renovation to a school, the downtown Riverwalk area. Projects that have longevity. They will look at bonding those projects. And because we're a big city, we sell our bonds through a bond bank. We sell our bonds directly, actually. We work with bond counsel. All the small towns in New Hampshire use a bonding bank through the state to get assistance to sell bonds. But the big municipalities sell their own bonds. And our bonds are pretty highly sought by companies that want to purchase those bonds.
So they purchase those bonds for what purpose?
They're good investments. They get an investment from that bond, an interest investment.
So by lending you the money, that's an investment, but it's in the form of a bond.
In the form of a bond investment. And then we get the bond proceeds. And we take that proceed money and we use it for a construction project. And that's what we did for, there's been a big push for school, the building of the Brian McCarthy Middle School. That was a very big bond, $118 million. So that's a huge bond. The Art Center was $21 million. The Riverwalk was $21 million. The the DPW building was $12 million.
Oh, that's all?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a little one.
That's a little one. So, but we've done a lot of bonding. And there have been some very astute people blowing the whistle that we're bonding too heavily. And since 2021, we had a bond debt of $286 million. And 3 years later, we were at $422 million. So we had increased our bond debt in 3 years by $136 million.
Holy cow.
Yes, we were running at a rate of about $45 million a year in bonding debt. Now, during those years, certainly for 21, 22, and partway early into 23, rates were low. So, you were bonding for 2%, 2.5%.
Okay, but now
that has changed.
Yeah.
That has changed. And you've got some high interest rates. So, and the shift has been such that the city, bonding is done throughout always in cities. It's a part of our financial package. And bonds get paid off, so there's a fluctuation in the numbers. Some get paid off, more come on the table. So the city, in 3 years, from 2021 to 2024, went from 117 million of bond debt to 91. So it went down. But the school went from 57 to 184 million. That's been the big one. And then solid waste stayed flat. Wastewater went up a little bit. Roads went up a little bit. So that's what it constituted, the 136 million of additional spending. So over 3 years, you're talking about running 45 million, a little more than 45 million a year in spending. So the CFO basically looked at,
which is the chief financial officer.
Yes. Who announced his retirement about 2 weeks ago.
Really?
So, yes. He's looking to leave. He's been here a while, and I had heard that was on the table. And that office is short some people. They have a personnel issue over there that they have to deal with.
I would think so.
So they're trying to address a shortfall and find ourselves a new CFO for the city. But he spoke with the mayor and the leaders and said, we really have to bond yearly at a rate of under 30 million. So that's a big shift. That's
15 million just at the 45 per year.
Right. And really over the 5 years, they're coming down like close to 50%, 45, 50% less in their spending for bonding. So that has changed the landscape of all these capital improvement projects that they've laid out. And, it's so the city, based on the mayor and the alderman president, Laurie Wilshire, decided to form an ad hoc committee made up of 8 people. Actually, they added one more, 9, 4 city leaders and 5 aldermen to talk about, it's an interesting committee makeup.
Where's the taxpayers? Where's we the people? Where is there an accountant or a true business leader?
Well, there are some issues there. I think that one of the city leaders there really doesn't belong there. I think one of the aldermen is just an alderman that happens to be have a lot of health issues and isn't attending board meetings right now, and you put him on an ad hoc committee.
So it's in name only.
It's a name only. And it's too important a committee to have a name only.
Yeah, because it's about a lot of money.
It's about a lot of money. And it's about setting a project schedule for the next 5 years for the city. And the challenges we're going to face now is, I feel like they've been spending in bonding, like drunken sailors. They've been bonding a lot.
Let's do this. It sounds good. Let's do it.
And they've come in and said, hey, we have a huge problem with our parking garages. We need a new parking garage downtown because we built up some high-rise buildings and we have our art center. That's a $30 or $40 million project. We need a fire station. Our Amherst Street fire station
that's
at the
up around the corner at the top of Library Hill.
Very old. And they also need another one out on Amherst Street, farther out.
Correct. So there is virtually nothing.
And this city has gotten pretty big.
There's actually nothing all the way to Milford.
Right. So that's a big stretch.
It's a huge stretch.
Okay. And you got a new school and you got all kinds of stuff going on. So there's a real need for fire stations. And you've got high-rise buildings. I don't know, even from an equipment and ladder standpoint.
How do we stand equipment-wise?
Right, to deal with these high-rise, 5 or 6-story buildings now. So I think they're going to have some real challenges. And with all of the construction for new housing, I'm going to guess that they have increased housing by at least 10%. In this, a city with a population of 90 or 91,000, I think could go to 105. With the building. That's a lot of growth.
That's a lot of growth. And that's a lot of taxes, too,
it's a lot
coming in.
Right. And you have a lot of infrastructure needs for projects.
To increase that amount of people moving into the city, you need to have the services available for them, especially when you have that kind of a tax cost.
Right.
I mean, we have to be honest, not to digress, but, where I live, my taxes are absolutely through the roof. Granted, most towns are 75 to 80% go towards the schools.
Right.
And so you have 20 to 25% for the town. I'm paying this.
Right.
And I have no services.
No.
I have a part-time fire. I have a full-time police.
Right.
But they don't come over the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
In full disclosure. And my husband's a cop, so I can say that. We've got a lot of discrepancies in towns
Right.
surrounding,
Of course.
where the taxes are through the roof
For very few services.
for very few, if any, in some towns. So this to me, in a city of this size, it would seem to me that they need more services than we do, and yet they're not there. They're not being kept up with.
They're not. And so, again, we've pushed for all this expansion and all this growth for housing. And now we've got this whole infrastructure piece that I think is very costly. And you've got a bonding cap that needs to come in right now. And 30 million was like the very top. The goal is to stay below that, 25 million, really knock it down. So that's going to be a huge challenge. And, the mayor was at the Board of Trustees meeting for the library and explained to them that the renovations to the library itself, the building, are most likely not going to be able to happen because we've got this bonding
Is
cap.
that the one that's on Temple Street?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And Court Street. It's really
Street.
Court
Court
Street.
okay.
But it was right off of
Right,
Temple.
Temple and then Court.
Right. Now, they received some federal money to redo the grounds. Annie Custer got some federal money, about $3 million, to redo the grounds around the library, which are in poor shape and it's become a very sort of rundown area. So they're trying to revitalize that area.
Well, because if you want people to come to the library, it shouldn't look like you're, walking into a ghetto.
Exactly. And the library the area had really dipped. So they're trying to do that, but the building itself was slated for a renovation. They haven't had a renovation of that building in a long time. And it's funny because the mayor suggested to them that they apply for new market tax credits like we used on the Arts Center. So Laurie Ortolano is going to have a lot to say about that.
Yes.
And how the kind of analysis we do to determine whether that makes any sense at all. Because first of all, what we did with the Arts Center, I don't think was legal or constitutional, and that's being challenged now
And there's
in court.
a big question mark on that.
Big question mark on how it was used. The library may be a better project type for that, but the cost of those credits, the fees associated with private industry and the federal government giving you money is astronomical. And that has to be analyzed.
Well, it has to be looked at because, again, spending money with a very few deciding for many is that kind of behavior needs to be carefully watched and monitored. Because, again, when you told me about who was going to be on this committee, where are the taxpayers? Where are the businessmen? Where are the people that actually are the ones footing the bill and having to come up with the money for a very few people's decision?
And I don't believe they're allowing public comment if you go out. That committee doesn't have to.
Well, you know what? When there's no public comment, I think maybe it's time, people, that we say, well, no public money.
Right, no public. I feel that way. I really do. And the next part of this bonding issue or discussion is going to be about ESSER funds. So ESSER funds were COVID money that was distributed during COVID that was used by, in this case, the school district. The school district received a lot of ESSER money. I don't remember how many millions, 45 million, maybe a lot.
And that was to be able to
apply it in specific ways dictated by the state and the federal government on what it could be used for that was affected by COVID. So the school administration came in last October and said, hey, we've got $16 million of ESSER funds, and we want to use that to renovate 2 elementary schools that are open concept, not designed for the best learning. We need to go back to classrooms that are sized like classrooms. And you know how the teaching model just rotates around. It just circles.
It's flavor of the decade.
It rotates. So they came in with this. We have 16 million to put in, and we need the city to put in 16 million. You have to bond 16 million, and for 32 million, we'll be able to deal with both these schools.
Oh, how very generous of them.
So October of 2022, they held a public hearing, and I went to that hearing, and I expressed my concerns against it. I said, at that point, we were spending so much money on the schools that I said, I really think that this has to go on hold. We're just swimming in debt. Time out. So I said, and I remember the board chair, Rick Dowd, was angry with me. and wrongly so, because I was a member of the public just expressing my opinion. And his remarks were, well, how would you fix the problem? I'm not the elected official. You're the problem solver. I'm just telling you why I think, I'm basically said, I really don't think you've managed our money well. And I don't want to give you this.
Right.
I don't want to give you this. So off they go. They get the 16 million and they agree to go forth with the project. And apparently last May or June, the school district, the superintendent, the CFO, and the property guy, Steve, realized that 4.5 million of that ESSER money is not there. They spent it on something else. They misallocated it. So it's
wait. Misallocated. Isn't that a really cute term?
And then the roofs that were estimated to be done for these buildings, the contractor didn't realize that there were 2 membranes laid down and it was going to cost an additional $2 million. So that wasn't forecasted. Now, a contractor that doesn't take a core sample of a roof to know what's up there didn't do their job.
Correct.
That's very scammy to me. That is just, we're going to hit you with $2 million down the road.
Oh, sorry, I messed up. I didn't really do my job. So that's another $2 million. Just suck it up, sunshine.
And then there was another $2 million issue, which I can't recall, but they came forward and they said, we need you to bond an additional $8.5 million because we don't have it. We told you we had it.
Too bad.
And it's gone. So basically they came and said, we need a bailout bond. But they came to Rick Dowd, who is the chair of the budget committee and the joint special school board committee, senior guy, been doing this for 24 years. And they told him in May and June that this was happening. He proceeded to never pass that on to his board. He sat on it quietly. And
so to turn it into an emergency last minute, we got to do this?
Exactly. And it was interesting because one board member, John Sullivan, who's a member of the Board of Aldermen, really dug down, drilled down, and went after the school administration when they came in about 10 days ago.
Yep.
How did this happen? Who knew and when?
Yep.
And the CFO of the school stood up and said, I knew, the superintendent knew, the school supervisor knew, and Mr. Dowd knew. And Mr. Dowd was sitting there rather red in the face, saying nothing. And then the alderman was like, okay, now we know. So when public comment came, I got up and said, and the CFO of the school said, I don't believe we generated any documentation on this. We never wrote anything.
Oh, God.
So I stood up and I said, you got a fire here. You got a crisis. You're missing $8.5 million in May and June. Nobody put a communication memo out that labeled it priority high to say, whoa, we got a big money problem. And I put in a right to know, and the answer appears no, because I don't think they're ever going to show me an email that said they sent that out, right?
Correct.
Then we had, come September, we had a escrow adjustment for money left from the 2023 budget that the mayor decided to give $8 million back to the taxpayers when in fact we could have used that money.
Could have used that for the schools.
But it never got discussed because Alderman Dowd never brought it up. He sat on it. And why did he sit on it?
What's going on?
It's an election year. It was an election year. Do you think
he was going to bring up that kind of a controversy?
When candidates were registering in an all-Democratic state, city, with a Democratic board, that we mismanaged $8.5 million, or we don't have accounting for these ESSER funds, we lost control of the situation, and we need to, bond this much more. They were not going to put that out as people were registering for election. So the election happens in November, and Alderman Dowd informs the JSSBC, the Joint School Board, Special School Board Building Committee, at the end of December that we have this problem. And in January, it comes before the board. And it was quite explosive to many members of the board.
I would think so.
Like, well, how did this happen? And, it really, and part of that, so that $8.5 million counts towards this under 30 that
Bonding,
we've got to do. I liked a few of the aldermen tried to think of other solutions. We have extra funds in a couple different areas.
Why don't we use that?
And split that so we don't do it as bonding debt. But that was met, with a bucket of cold water. They're going to go with the bonding, I think. But
Because it's not their money.
I
In
think-
the end, it's not their money. They don't have to be held accountable for it, because what happened to the 8.5? Where are they being held accountable for that?
Right. And, you know, down in Brockton, Mass, this situation happened just in the last few weeks, where the school superintendent mismanaged a $14 million contract. He was placed out on administrative leave with pay. There's been an investigation opened, and they're looking into it. And a citizen came forward at the last board meeting a week ago Tuesday and stood up and read a letter. I thought he did a really good job. And he said, hey, you know, I heard a citizen say it had to do with elections and holding back. I'll be more pragmatic. We had all this extra money in the escrow account, but because it wasn't disclosed, we gave it back to taxpayers to make them feel good about their taxes going down. And now we're faced with an $8.5 million bond. And he said, I would ask the chair, Laurie Wilshire, to open an investigation.
Yes.
Find out what happened
What happened?
here.
Where did it go? Who authorized it? And why is there no documentation?
And they're not going to do it up here. Now, you have a very democratic state like Massachusetts that looks at a loss of $11 million or $14 million and says, we're going to get on this. We're going to, you know, our city is going to figure out what happened here with our superintendent. You have $8.5 million in Nashua, and everyone's sitting on their hands going, not me. You know, we don't think we'll address this. And what is more interesting to me is on August 29th of last year, knowing we were going into elections, I wrote an email to Alderman Dowd called A Request for Upcoming Bonding Projects. And I said, as the chairman of the Budget Committee and School Building Project Committee, projects are long in your tenure. You have the knowledge of upcoming bonding projects. It is well known that during an election year, the seated party holds bonding projects back until after the election is complete. Please refer to a July 3rd, 2023 court order regarding answering questions replying to formal right to know requests. So I said, can you please tell me, basically I said, if there are any future bonding projects that you are aware of that have not been disclosed. Now this was totally out of the blue. I wrote this. He didn't respond for 12 days in violation of law. Right? He had a 5-day response time. 12 days go by, I get nothing. So I write to Donna Graham, who is the secretary for the Board of Aldermen. And I said, hey, I sent this to Rick Dowd on August 29th. I got no response. Can you pursue it with Mr. Perrin and get me a response to this request? And she writes back from the 12th on the 18th, and she said, I had a discussion with Alderman Dowd. There are no future bonding projects scheduled. The most recent bonding plan was discussed at the Budget Review Committee meeting on June 1st of 2023, with minutes to be found. I feel like they just totally lied to me.
But they did totally lie to you.
And
words don't lie.
And it's interesting because the words are interesting. There are no future bonding projects scheduled. Well, in a way, they'll say that's not a lie because we didn't schedule anything.
We didn't schedule anything.
We didn't schedule it. But I didn't ask that.
You asked, are there any...
Are you aware of anything?
Aware of any.
Right,
yeah,
because we hide this stuff during election season, and I want to know if you're aware of anything, or there's any emails or notes written, or any indication of anything in writing that you can give to me. Nothing exists. So it really, and I actually filed a right to know lawsuit on this right before I was going into my art center big trial, and I ended up withdrawing it. The city took a position. I feel I could have won, but I couldn't do both suits, and I was trying to get an idea of what the city was thinking. The city's position to win that case was that Laurie Ortolano sent the right to know to the chairman of the Budget Committee and the JSSBC. She didn't send it to the full public body, the full committee. And RSA 91A says records come from either an agency or the public body. Because she didn't go to the public body, she's not entitled to a right to know violation. Wow. What did the clerk, though, for the board do? She went to the chair. And I've asked every budget committee member to give me or JSSBC any email where my right to know did go to them.
Yep.
She never sent it because they're not sending it to the board.
Gotcha.
So I had, there's a game being played here, and it's not a good game for us when it comes to open records.
Well, they think we're stupid.
Well, and they
believe, that they don't work for us, and they do, and that's the problems. We've allowed them and consented to them to do as they please with, oh, they know what's best for us. Well, they don't. And I think the time has come that they have to be held accountable 100% to what they're doing and answer when spoken to.
Yes. Yes.
So tell people, where can they reach out to you, find out about this information? Do you have a blog or something?
I do. I don't update it as much because I'm going into court in another month, but I have been writing some articles, and it's www.good-gov.org. And I go back into trial on April 10th through 12th to finish the next 3 days on the Arts Center.
Okay.
My first 3 days were pretty good, and I learned a lot, discovered a lot, but I have like 5 more witnesses to put on the stand, including the city attorney, who the judge is permitting.
Bolton.
No, Celia Leonard.
Oh, okay.
She comes on the stand. He allowed her to be a witness and be questioned about, all of the Arts Center, the downtown barriers, and the tax incremental financing board and records.
So that's April 10th through 12th, and that will be in the Nashua court?
Yes.
So
right
be there, find out what's going on, and please go to www.good-gov.org. Thank you, Laurie, so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for letting us know about everything.
You're very welcome.
All right, everybody. Glad to have you with us. Hope this opened up your eyes to what's really going on around us and that we really can't be silent anymore and we really need to be investigators. Have an absolutely fabulous day.